Welcome back to BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel, Cranford. Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and the hidden meanings behind the story. Okay, let's dive right into this world Gaskell creates. We start in Cranford, and it's described almost like a visionary country home. It feels special, doesn't it? Like a place you'd want to escape to.
Absolutely. It's presented as this sort of haven, a place for, refreshment. And right away, this concept of elegant economy pops up.
Ah, yes. Though some might be poor, yet we're all aristocratic. That line really sticks with you. It sets the whole tone, this mix of, well, genteel poverty, but unwavering dignity.
Exactly. And Gaskell is very clear about setting Cranford apart. It's not like Meryton in Pride and Prejudice or Kellynch in Persuasion.
Right. Those feel more connected to the sort of usual social world.
Cranford is farther removed from the world, the text says, but paradoxically more attuned to its larger interests. Its main connection isn't Bath, the fashionable spa town.
No, it's Drumble, this great, noisy manufacturing town, which is such a contrast.
It really is. It immediately signals that Cranford plays by its own rules. It's this quiet pocket, almost stuck in time, but maybe that lets it focus more deeply on human things. It makes you think about what community means outside the big, busy places.
And that focus leads to something really fascinating, almost a core paradox of Cranford, the way it treats love.
Oh, definitely.
The narrator says, love is a memory rather than a present emotion. You see these images of old keepsakes, sentimental locks of hair have turned to gray, the love letters, the billet doux, are yellowed like autumn leaves. It sounds, well, a bit sad initially.
It does sound melancholic, like all the passion is gone.
But then comes this amazing twist. Gaskell suggests this remembered love, this faded feeling, actually reveals more of real feeling than in all the Mrs. Bennet's youthful romances put together.
Which is quite a statement against, the more conventional romantic plots of the time.
It really is. It's suggesting that deep feeling isn't just about fiery passion or, the excitement of courtship. It's about these lasting imprints, a love that maybe deepens over time instead of just fading away. It really challenges how we often think about relationships, doesn't it? That focus on the immediate spark.
Absolutely. It values endurance, memory. So how does a place like Cranford end up with people who embody this?
Well, the source suggests Cranford actually chooses its own inhabitants.
Right, like a kind of social ecosystem.
Exactly. It's not just about birth or money. It values individuality and kindliness. And get this, oddities are tolerated, nay, greatly loved. Imagine that. A place where being quirky is actually a plus.
It's quite countercultural for the time, isn't it? So much emphasis was usually on conformity.
Totally. And Gaskell makes it feel real. She based it, partly at least, on Knutsford, where she lived. You get these descriptions of oak beams and solid brick walls, slanting gables, these lovely, neat gardens.
It grounds it. That mix of real architectural detail and this unique fictional society makes Cranford feel so tangible. You feel like you could almost visit.
You really do. Okay, so let's dig into the society itself, because it's peculiar in the best way, the most obvious thing. Almost no men.
Yes, the famous line, "A man is so in the way in the house."
It's brilliant. The surgeon is the main exception, making his rounds, but as the text dryly notes, every man cannot be a surgeon.
Which basically leaves the ladies in charge. It's a matriarchy, really. A quiet reversal of the usual Victorian setup. They have real agency in their sphere.
And they seem perfectly capable, thank you very much. They manage their gardens, meticulously choice flowers, and not a weed to be seen. They chase off little boys.
Deal with geese.
Run their households. And my favorite part, they decide all questions of literature and politics without troubling themselves with unnecessary reasons or arguments.
Oh, that's confidence for you. Unshakable certainty.
It really is. And their social conduct is just as defined. They know everybody's affairs in the parish. They keep their maids in admirable order, show kindness to the poor, though maybe a bit dictatorial kindness,
Yeah.
and genuinely help each other out whenever they are in distress. It's a community that watches closely, but ultimately cares deeply.
But here's another fascinating layer. Even though they know everything about each other, they're exceedingly indifferent to each other's opinions.
Isn't that strange? It leads to these little spats, verbal retaliation, sharp words, head jerks.
Like minor skirmishes.
Exactly. But the underlying goodwill seems to survive. It's like they have this unspoken understanding, this deep bond that these surface disagreements don't really threaten.
And their fashion sense ties into this whole philosophy, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very independent of fashion. Practicality. Durability, that's the key. It embodies the elegant economy perfectly. It's not just about saving money, it's a conscious choice, almost a statement.
And that ties directly into how they handle poverty itself. It's this unspoken rule, isn't it?
Yes. The source says they were like the Spartans, concealing their smart under a smiling face. You just did not speak of money.
Because it's savored of commerce and trade. And acknowledging poverty was vulgar.
That word vulgar carries so much weight in Cranford. It's the ultimate social sin. Because remember, though some might be poor, we were all aristocratic.
It's about upholding this collective ideal, this shared identity. There's this kindly esprit de corps, this mutual pact to overlook the signs of poverty, to pretend they don't see the careful managing.
The example of Mrs. Forrester's tiny house is perfect.
Oh, the baby house of a dwelling. Yes.
Where the maid has to basically slide the tea tray out from under the sofa where the guests are sitting.
And everyone just pretends it's completely normal, as if she has a legion of servants and a massive drawing room.
It's this elaborate, silent performance to maintain dignity, even when things are tough. It's so central to understanding Cranford, and it shows a kind of empathy, doesn't it? A shared understanding.
Definitely. And this restraint extends to their social life, too. They kept such early hours.
Home by 9 o'clock. Can you imagine? Clattering along in their pattens.
Those overshoes, right? For the mud.
Yep. Guided by a lantern. And the whole town asleep by 10:30.
And the parties themselves. Very modest. Wafer bread and butter and sponge biscuits. Nothing extravagant.
It's all part of that elegant economy, convincing themselves that what they have is precisely what they prefer. Sour grapeism, the text calls it.
Which leads to a kind of contentment, doesn't it? Accepting their lot. It's fascinating how social norms shape not just behavior, but feelings, too.
Okay, so into this very controlled, very specific world walks Captain Brown. And he is definitely not playing by Cranford rules.
No, he is not. His arrival is described as an invasion, which tells you everything. And his biggest crime, right off the bat.
He talks about being poor, openly.
It's just vulgar. That terrible word again. It shatters the illusion they've all carefully maintained. He's speaking the unspeakable.
And he's already got strikes against him. He's a man, for starters.
A definite disruption in their female-centric world.
And he works for the railway, the neighboring railroad they all fiercely opposed.
So male, connected to the dreaded modernity of the railroad, and so brazen as to talk of being poor. It's a trifecta of Cranfordian offenses.
Yet there's something about him. He's older, upwards of 60, but seems younger, wiry, well-trained, elastic figure, a springing step.
And it's his frankness, his refusal to take offense at their, coolness.
The small slights.
Exactly. He's friendly even when they're standoffish. He answers sarcasm sincerely. His manly frankness, as Gaskell calls it, just sort of bowls over their polite defenses. It shows how genuine character can cut through social pretense.
And then comes the incident that really starts to turn the tide in his favor. The Alderney cow incident.
Yes, Miss Betsy Barker's beloved cow.
She adored that cow. And it falls into a lime pit. It's rescued, but it's lost all its hair, poor thing. Miss Betsy is beside herself, considering an oil bath.
And Captain Brown just cuts through the fuss with pure practicality.
He does. Get her a flannel waistcoat and flannel drawers, ma'am.
Flannel drawers. For a cat.
But my advice is, kill the poor creature at once. So blunt.
Shockingly blunt for Cranford. But what happens?
The whole town turns out to see the cow going to pasture clad in dark gray flannel. It's utterly absurd, but it proves his common sense worked. And that practical wisdom, oddly enough, starts to win the ladies over.
It's a fantastic moment. Common sense versus genteel absurdity, and common sense wins. But his family also causes a bit of a stir, don't they?
They do. He has 2 daughters. Miss Brown, the elder one, is sickly, looks older than she is, quite plain.
And then there's Miss Jessie Brown. 10 years younger, round and dimpled, childlike, with big blue eyes.
And it's Miss Jenkins, the rector's daughter, a real pillar of Cranford society who takes particular issue with the captain. Over books, of all things.
Yes. Her passion against Captain Brown really ignites because he prefers Dickens' Mr. Boz over her literary hero, Dr. Johnson.
She thought publishing in numbers, like Dickens did, was vulgar and below the dignity of literature. She championed Johnson's very formal style.
It's more than just literary taste, though. It's old versus new, tradition versus popular culture, a real clash.
And this snobbery extends beyond books. Poor Miss Jessie commits a major social blunder at a card party.
Oh, dear. What did she do?
She has absolutely zero tact. Trying to source some Shetland wool for Miss Pole, She casually mentions that her uncle was a shopkeeper in Edinburgh.
No,
Not trade.
especially with the Honorable Mrs. Jameson present.
Exactly. Miss Jenkins is horrified. She tries to cover it up with a sudden, violent coughing fit and suggests they have some music immediately. Anything to distract from the dreadful revelation.
The horror, a shopkeeper's niece in Cranford.
The social fabric is trembling. But despite all this, you start to see Captain Brown's real kindness shine through in little ways.
Yes, those small anecdotes that filter through the town, like him helping the old woman carry her dinner on a slippery day. Just a simple, unthinking act of kindness.
And he even makes peace with Miss Jenkins by giving her a wooden fire shovel he made himself. A really simple, heartfelt gesture.
It bypasses all their arguments, and then there's Miss Jessie's devotion to her sick sister.
Oh, it's beautiful. She's described as bearing her sister's crossness with such tenderness, always putting on a bright face, even after being up all night.
The narrator admires her resilience, how neat and ready she is for her father at breakfast.
And this genuine goodness starts to soften Cranford's view. People start sending vegetables and things for Miss Brown. Their collective kindness emerges.
It shows that beneath the rules and the judgment, there's a real core of compassion.
Now, shifting focus slightly, let's talk about Miss Mattie. She really is the heart of Cranford in many ways, isn't she? So gentle, so easily flustered.
Definitely. Always living slightly in the shadow of her older sister, Miss Jenkins. She was only ever called Miss Mattie when Miss Jenkins wasn't around.
That says so much about their dynamic, doesn't it? And Miss Mattie's deference.
And even after Miss Jenkins dies, Miss Mattie clings to her sister's rules, like the wine decanters filled only with water at dinner.
Or eating oranges in private because of the unpleasant association with a ceremony frequently gone through by little babies. It's so specific.
It shows her loyalty, maybe her way of grieving, but it also hints at this quiet melancholy beneath the surface, a hidden sorrow.
And that sorrow connects to a figure from her past who suddenly reappears. Mr. Holbrook.
Ah, yes, the tall, thin, Don Quixote-looking old man, a yeoman farmer resistant to change.
And we learn he was Miss Mattie's suitor maybe 30 or 40 years ago.
A lost love. But why didn't they marry?
Ms. Jenkins disapproved. She thought he was marrying below her rank because the Jenkins family had connections to Sir Peter Arley, someone important locally.
So social standing dictated her future. A quiet tragedy, really.
It is. And their reunion decades later is so touching. His loud, honest joy. Matilda Miss Jenkins, God bless my soul, it leaves her completely bewildered.
You can feel the weight of all those years, all that unspoken history flooding back. And Gaskell then gives us this glimpse of the life she might have had.
Yes. The visit to his farm, Woodley. The narrator notes Miss Mattie's silent agitation on the way there, knowing this might have been her home. It's heartbreaking.
And Holbrook himself is such a character. His book-filled counting house, serving pudding before meat, the clay pipe.
Rough around the edges, but with a surprising depth. He loves poetry. Quotes Shakespeare, Goethe.
He defies expectations, which is very Cranford in a way.
And Miss Mattie's reaction when he reads Tennyson's Locksley Hall to her.
Oh, she falls fast asleep within 5 minutes.
And then wakes up and says, what a pretty book. It's so innocent, so her. But the narrator realizes it's not just naivete, it's her hidden sorrow manifesting.
That understanding adds such depth to her character. And then the connection is severed again just as quickly. Mr. Holbrook gets ill after a trip to Paris and dies.
So sudden. And Miss Mattie. She makes a strong effort to conceal her feelings. Never mentions him again.
But she keeps the book of poetry he gave her tucked away with her Bible. That tells you everything about the depth of her quiet grief, the love she carried silently.
From that quiet sorrow, we're plunged into sudden public tragedy. Just as Miss Mattie is dealing with Holbrook's death, Captain Brown starts to decline.
Yes, he appears like an old man, his voice trembles. It's because his daughter, Miss Brown, is dying. That initial energy we saw is fading under this immense sadness.
And this sets the stage for a truly shocking event. The news of Captain Brown's own death.
Delivered so bluntly by a carter, he was reading a book by the railway line.
The railway he worked for, the one Cranford hated.
Exactly. And he sees a little girl on the tracks. He darted on the line and cotched it up, saves the child, but his foot slips, and the train hits him.
A hero's death. Utterly selfless. It's a huge plot twist, designed to shake Cranford's foundations, isn't it? Making them see true worth beyond their social rules. The irony of him dying on the railway he represented.
It's profound. And the aftermath is devastating. Miss Jessie faints. Miss Jenkins and Miss Pole step in, showing their practical side in a crisis.
But Jessie's first thought even in her grief, is to shield her dying sister Mary from the news. Incredible strength.
And then the second blow falls. Miss Brown passes away peacefully soon after. Her last words are heartbreaking, listing family names, and then, "But you will be alone, Jessie."
Leaving Jessie utterly bereft and practically destitute.
Yes, she's left with barely anything. Just over 20 pounds a year, the furniture money. Not nearly enough. She has to consider working, sewing, nursing, managing a house, even working in a shop.
Things unthinkable for a Cranford lady previously. It shows her resilience. And then, just as she's facing this bleak future, another dramatic turn.
Major Gordon returns.
Miss Jenkins announces him with unusual excitement, and Jessie's reaction, blushing, trembling, tells you immediately there's a history there.
He's described as tall, fine, frank-looking, around 40, and the handshake between them is electric.
And we finally get the backstory. She'd refused to marry him years ago because she wouldn't leave her sick sister.
He thought she was cold-hearted, broke it off, went traveling, but then he read about Captain Brown's death in the newspaper.
In Gaskell, the paper for expats, while he was in Rome, and came straight back. It's wonderfully romantic.
It really is. And the scene that follows is pure gold, especially because of Miss Jenkins.
Oh, Miss Mattie bursting in. "Deborah, there's a gentleman sitting in the drawing room with his arm around Miss Jessie's waist." The picture of outraged propriety.
And Miss Jenkins's response is just priceless, completely unexpected.
The most proper place in the world for his arm to be in. "Go away, Matilda, and mind your own business."
From Miss Jenkins, it shows such a surprising depth of understanding and approval. A real softening. Cranford might have rules, but it values happiness.
It's a fantastic moment. And the story wraps up beautifully for Jessie. She marries Major Gordon, her early bloom returned. She gets her happy ending after so much loss.
And that final image of Miss Jenkins, old and frail, listening to little Flora Gordon read the Christmas Carol instead of the Rambler.
It shows real change, doesn't it? A move towards warmth, empathy. Cranford can evolve.
Okay, so after all that drama and romance, Cranford gets gripped by something else entirely. Fear. The peculiar panic.
Right. It starts after Signor Brunoni, the conjurer, visits. Suddenly there are these rumors of robberies. Real ones, supposedly.
And the town just dissolves into anxiety, leading to these nightly patrols.
Miss Mattie's expedition, armed with a poker, hearthbrush, shovel, and fire irons. It's quite the image.
Domestic Defense Force. And Miss Pole, meanwhile, is collecting all the scary stories, making them sound even worse.
While secretly borrowing one of Mr. Hoggins's old hats to hang in her hall, hoping robbers will think a man lives there.
The contrast between public bravado and private fear is hilarious.
And the fear takes a specific direction thanks to Mrs. Forrester, the French spy theory.
Because her father and husband fought the French, naturally, she's convinced no Cranfordian would ever be dishonest.
They're too grateful to the aristocracy.
It must be foreigners. And Signor Brunoni, with his turban and broken English, well, he fits the bill perfectly. She even compares his turban to Madame de Staël's.
It's classic projection, finding evidence to fit the fear.
And even the men aren't immune. Mrs. Jameson's butler, Mr. Mulliner, shouts bravely that he'll fight any robbers.
But only after retreating and locking his bedroom door.
Bravery from a safe distance. And then poor Carlo the dog dies, adding fuel to the fire. People start suspecting Brunoni, the magician, could have somehow killed him with his deadly force.
It shows how irrational fear can really take hold. But thankfully, reason starts to prevail. Lady Glenmire is skeptical from the start.
Yes, she calmly points out the only actual thefts were some apples stolen by boys and a few missing eggs, pricking the bubble of panic.
And the real turning point comes when Signor Brunoni himself is found ill at the local inn.
Miss Mattie and Lady Glenmire go to visit his wife and child, showing their compassion. And that's when the truth comes out.
The big reveal. Signor Brunoni isn't some sinister foreigner at all. He's Samuel Brown, an Englishman, a former army sergeant.
His wife explains everything, the stage name, the act. She tells them about their tragic time in India, losing 6 children, her desperation to save their daughter, Phoebe.
She even clarifies about his twin brother, Thomas, who sometimes filled in for him, but wasn't as skilled a conjurer.
The contrast between the feared spy and this vulnerable family is immense. Her story of walking across India with her baby, it's incredibly moving.
It completely shatters the earlier prejudice and fear. And how does Cranford react once they know the truth?
With kindness, of course. They send food and aid. Even Mrs. Forrester, the source of the spy theory, sends her special bread jelly.
It shows their good hearts ultimately win out over their initial suspicion and panic. Once they see the human reality, their compassion takes over.
So the panic fades, and Cranford life settles again, leading to more social shifts. Lady Glenmire stays on at Mrs. Jameson's, acting as a sort of chaperone for the maids.
The pleasant-looking dragon.
Yeah.
She seems to fit right in.
Though there were those initial awkward moments about how to address her, my lady or your ladyship, and Mrs. Jameson trying to keep people away, probably to maintain her own status.
Classic Mrs. Jameson. But Lady Glenmire's own charm wins them over. Her Scottish accent, her skill at cards.
Playing preference to admiration. Soon they forget the titles and just enjoy her company. Like Miss Pole sharing the story about her cat and the lace.
And needing Mr. Hoggins's boot to fix it. Those everyday, slightly absurd moments that build real connection.
Exactly. Genuine connection trumping social hierarchy, which sets the stage for the real social earthquake.
The engagement. Mr. Hoggins, the surgeon,
is going to marry Lady Glenmire.
The reaction is pure shock. Mary. Madness. It completely upends their sense of social order.
Miss Pole is horrified. What a fool my lady is going to make of herself. It just highlights that rigid sense of rank.
And Mrs. Jameson is secretly pleased because she always thought Lady Glenmire had low taste, but she still draws her blinds like it's a funeral when they receive visitors.
So dramatic. But Miss Maddie defends them. Mr. Hoggins is kind, pleasant-looking, rich enough.
And Lady Glenmire, despite her title, is as poor as Job. There's a practical side they eventually grasp.
And you can't deny their happiness. Mr. Hoggins is broad and radiant, creaking down the aisle in new boots.
An audible, as well as visible sign of his new status.
And Lady Glenmire looks flushed and youthful. Their happiness forces Cranford to adapt. They gradually accept Mr. and Mrs. Hoggins.
It shows that society isn't totally rigid. It can bend when faced with genuine affection and, well, reality.
But just as things seem settled, disaster strikes Miss Maddie. The bank failure.
Such a blow. It starts subtly a business letter for her, while the narrator's father mentions rumors about the town and county bank.
And Miss Maddie is completely oblivious. She's thinking about spring fashion, her new silk dress. She remembers her sister Deborah buying the shares.
Even thinking the bank meeting is just about choosing directors, her innocence is heartbreaking.
The crash comes suddenly and publicly. A farmer tries to pay with a note from that bank, and the shopkeeper refuses it.
And Miss Maddie, bless her, offers her own gold for the worthless note, thinking it's all just a misunderstanding.
But it isn't. The narrator's father confirms it. The bank is bust. Her shares are worthless. She's lost everything.
Financial ruin. Yet, she maintains that Cranfordian composure in public, hides her shock and dismay.
That's Spartan stoicism again. But inside, you know she must be terrified.
But this is where Cranford truly shines. The community rallies. The ladies hold a secret meeting.
The conspiracy, led by Miss Pole, they all agree to contribute to Miss Maddie's income secretly.
Writing amounts on sealed papers. It's done with such delicacy, respecting her independence while showing deep care, that kindly esprit de corps.
It's beautiful. And then comes another surprise. Martha, her maid.
Yes, Martha gets engaged to Jem Hearn, the joiner, and then proposes that they take Miss Maddie as a lodger in her own house.
A complete reversal of roles. Martha and the rather unrefined Jem become her landlords. It's poignant, but born of real affection.
Martha wants to care for her, and it leads to Miss Maddie's new life, selling tea from her parlor.
She's so apprehensive at first. Dealing with men, handling money, it's all new. But she likes the idea of selling sweets, comfits, to children.
And she worries about selling green tea because it might be slow poison, so typically conscientious.
Her little shop opens. She adds extra sweets by way of make-weight. It shows her enduring generosity, her quiet resilience. She adapts, finds a new way.
And just when she settled into this new, humbler life, the final, most incredible twist, the return of poor Peter.
Her long-lost brother, the prankster.
We hear about his old tricks dressing as a lady to fool his father, the rector.
Asking him to copy sermons. Peter found it terrifying how seriously his father took her.
And blurting out, "Confound the woman," when he wanted to go fishing instead.
Then the infamous baby prank.
Dressing in Miss Jenkins' clothes, using a pillow, just to stir up gossip.
But that prank had terrible consequences. He felt disgraced, ran away from home, said that heartbreaking "God bless you forever" to his mother, and went to sea.
The family searched. His mother grieved deeply. Letters were missed, connections broken. Such sorrow.
He became just a ghost, a sad memory, until decades later.
After the bank failure, after the tea shop, this tanned man with white hair appears.
He finds the narrator first. "Is your name Mary Smith?" And then reveals himself to Miss Maddie. How? By asking for a pound of those things. the almond comfits she sells. Such a simple, perfect reunion.
And his story. Volunteering in Rangoon, captured by the Burmese, freed because he knew how to bleed the chief.
Sounds like an adventure novel. He thought his family was dead, settled in India as an indigo planter, until the narrator's letter finally reached him.
And he came straight back. Not fabulously wealthy, not a nabob, but comfortable enough to support himself and Miss Mattie.
Giving her security again, and Cranford is just astonished. The shop closes, children wait for sweets thrown from the window.
His return stirs everything up. His story's maybe a bit exaggerated.
And bigger every week. They love it. Quite as good as an Arabian Night.
And he even manages to charm Mrs. Jameson after she excluded the Hogginses from his party.
By telling her that outrageous story about shooting a cherubim in India, it's so absurd it actually works. It breaks the ice.
It leads to this final reconciliation, this increased friendliness in Cranford society. Peter's return seemed to dissolve the last vestiges of stiffness.
Which brings us nicely to synthesizing Cranford's enduring charm. Peter's arrival really cements the changes we've seen. Mrs. Jameson actually socializing with Mrs. Hoggins, formerly Lady Glenmire, at Peter's party. That's huge.
It really is. It shows how the warmth of characters like Miss Mattie and Peter can melt even the iciest social barriers.
And the ultimate acceptance, the Hogginses, Mrs. Fitzadam, they're all part of the circle now. Cranford evolved, adapted without losing its core kindness.
As the narrator says, they all love Miss Mattie and somehow think we are all of us better when she's near us. She's the quiet moral center.
So the enduring message, it's partly a celebration of these quiet lives, isn't it? Especially women's lives, finding richness outside grand adventures.
And the power of community, how this small town with all its quirks and rules ultimately supports its members.
Definitely. And the triumph of kindness, adaptability. Miss Mattie's journey embodies that resilience, grace under pressure.
It finds beauty in the ordinary, the real feeling behind the everyday stuff. It's not about high society drama, it's about human connection.
Which leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about stories. Like Peter's tall tales. How the stories we tell ourselves and believe shape our reality, our communities. Which narratives do we choose to focus on, and how does that affect us?
A great final thought, how we choose what matters. And there you have it. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us and this story. If you enjoyed it, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than you know. Be good and take care.